morning. I bought the presentation for the Frandra sock account, Miss Manson.
Frandra sock?
Sandra frock.
Would you mind putting it on the desk, please, Riley? I felt like a celebrity in my new Sandra frock. No. No. No.
At the account meeting on Monday.
It should be feel, present tense, Riley. Try it. Go on, try it.
I feel like a celebrity in my new Sandra frock.
Much better. Can't you see that?
I thought it might be a little too suggestive. Feel.
If you were selling bananas, Riley, would you stand on a street corner and shout, "These were good bananas"?
No, Miss Manson.
What's this awful girl supposed to be doing?
She's at a film premiere.
I was afraid she was. What do you do down in that copy department, Riley? Play Freudian word games?
I do.
Celebrity, what does that remind you of? Quick.
A film premiere. I see what you mean. It's too obvious.
Oh. There are celebrities who never go to film premieres, Riley.
Researchers discover that 99% of the people in Who's Who are totally unknown to the age group that buys Sandra frocks.
There are thousands of celebrities whose names are known to everyone in the world.
They want too much money.
Not the ones I'm thinking of. They don't want anything at all. They're free from all sordid impulses and considerations. Free from anger, free from pain.
Who?
The dead, of course, Riley, the dead. Don't you find yourself envying them sometimes? Oh, that's fine, Olga. Just concentrate on the clothes.
Oh, darling, don't you like his face?
We can get dozens of portraits of him. And we'll dress up our own figure and pose 6 models around him in Sandra frocks.
With or without their hairs?
Mm-hmm. What a brute he was, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. They don't turn out men like that anymore.
Is, Riley married?
Yes, don't you remember he brought her to the Christmas party? A soft, pink, cozy girl.
Like a Nidada.
That's the one.
He must take it all out on her.
On what?
He almost kicked me this morning. He only just managed to restrain himself. His face was all knotted up with the...
Nonsense. He's scared stiff of you.
I don't mean him to be.
Don't you?
Well, I can't have some man taking my job away from me.
Oh, if men will insist on competing with women, what can they expect?
How many of their heads did he cut off?
Oh, 2 or 3.
How things have changed. I've been thinking of, getting rid of Riley.
Brute.
He's so feeble.
Well, that's the lot. You coming back to the office?
No, I think I'll wander around here for a while. I haven't been here since I was a child. I used to love it here when I was a child.
Sorry, did I startle you?
You did that on purpose.
Well, really, do you think I come here to play tricks on people?
Yes.
No. If you have weak nerves, you should stay away from murderers.
I have very strong nerves, thank you.
Pepperidge. He lured 18 young women into a wood, strangled them, stripped them of all their possessions, and then buried their bodies in previously prepared graves.
They must have been rather stupid young women.
Haven't you ever been lured into a wood?
Why don't you go and pester someone else?
Well, there isn't anyone really worth pestering. Besides, I can't have you thinking I frightened you on purpose.
You didn't frighten me.
I'm really a very serious person. I came here to do some research.
On how to lure young women into woods.
No, I know how to do that already. Don't you think that's a very good likeness?
Who made you draw him?
Really just concentrating on his clothes. We can get all the pictures of his face we want.
What for?
You see, the idea is that he killed the girls in that suit.
He killed all the girls in his new striped suit.
Yeah, well, no, it's not very new.
Who do you work for?
No one.
Freelance?
Completely free. Especially for lunch.
Look, you may have thought of this idea quite independently. I'm not saying you didn't, but you're too late. We've already made our presentation.
Oh, really?
I'm the account executive at Lane & Lane, and
Yes.
Sandra Fox okayed it on Friday.
Sandra who?
Our idea isn't exactly the same as yours. I feel like a celebrity in my new Sandra frock. I killed all the girls in my new striped suit. But you can see that it's too close for comfort, so you better forget it.
Haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about.
I'm talking about advertising slogans.
I'm not.
What did you make this drawing for?
Well, I was... I'd much sooner tell you over lunch.
I haven't got time.
Dinner?
No, thank you.
Don't you want to know why I made that... Don't you want to know why I made that sketch of a murderer's clothes?
Not particularly.
Nonsense. You won't be able to sleep till you know about it. You'll lie awake wondering about it all night.
I sleep beautifully, thank you.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Beautifully and adorably.
Goodbye.
Oh, you're not going yet.
I've wasted enough time already.
Can I have my sketchbook back? Thanks. Sandra Fox. Lane and Lane.
Yes, I remember the Pepperidge case. He killed a whole lot of women and buried them in the local cemetery. I've forgotten why. But I suppose once you start doing something like that, it's hard to stop. It's like smoking.
It's maddening. There he was, sketching the clothes the model was wearing, just the clothes. It was a very good drawing, too.
Gosh, I must dash. I've got a date with Max to photograph this Macintosh. If I'm not there to watch him, he'll make it look like leather.
It seems
He's
furious.
mad about leather.
Why?
I didn't know. I expect he had a nanny who wore leather aprons.
I'm not talking about Max. That man this morning.
Oh, that. Well, now, don't lose any sleep about it, darling.
There's a Mr. Paris Belmont to see you, Miss Manson.
Who? What about? I don't know any Paris Belmont.
Well, he asked to see the Count Executive in charge
Of course, you know, I've come to take you to dinner. Thanks, Fred. Oh, what an enormous office you've got. You must be very important.
You know what my job is. That's how you found me.
It says, B.J. Manson on the door. What does the B.J. stand for? Shall I guess?
Barbara Jane.
Barbara Jane. Perfect names for you. They fit you like a pair of matching nylons. The Barbara, capable, crisp, a little cool. The Jane, softer, vulnerable, rather helpless.
I'm not at all helpless, thank you.
Aren't you glad I found you?
Delighted, as a matter of fact. What were you up to this morning?
Oh, as a matter of fact, it's quite simple, really. You see, some friends of mine in the country, in Cornwall, George and Helen Statton, perhaps you've heard of them.
They're writers, aren't they?
Yes, famous crimes, celebrated murders. They're writing a book about Pepperidge, and they're interested in his taste in clothes. You see, their theory is that he did at least 2 of the murders wearing that suit.
On the wax model?
Pepperidge, like all artists, had a yearning to survive. So the day before he was executed, he bequeathed that suit to the Chamber of Horrors. And the Stattons asked me to make a drawing of it for their book.
Well, thank you for telling me.
I know a perfect place for a drink before dinner.
I'm afraid I can't. I'm busy this evening.
No, you're not.
I've got 1,000 things to do.
I tell you what you'll do if you don't have dinner with me this evening. You'll take a taxi back to your flat in Knightsbridge.
Kensington.
You'll have a glass of sherry.
Vodka.
You'll cook yourself a mushroom omelette.
What makes you think I'm going to eat alone?
And then you'll pretend to think about Sandra Fox till 10 or 10:30, and you'll go to bed wondering why you didn't have dinner with me.
You're very sure of yourself, aren't you?
Don't you think men should be sure of themselves?
I suppose you think women should be soft, cozy creatures, like eider downs.
I think women should be just like you.
You don't know anything about me.
Thought so the moment I saw you this morning, staring at that guillotine. Fascinated, frightened, excited by it all the same time.
I was not. I was thinking that only a man could have invented such a dreadful thing.
That's why you were fascinated by it.
What do you do when you're not pestering girls in the Chamber of Horrors?
I live in Cornwall.
Is that all you do?
Living can be a full-time occupation if you devote yourself to it.
So can working.
What a ghastly thought.
I have some work to do now, if you don't mind.
Yes, I have an old stone house high on a cliff overlooking the sea. You'll love it there.
Goodbye. Stop looking at me like that.
Isn't that the way most men look at you? No, I suppose not. No, not if you're an account executive. They don't see you as a woman at all. They don't want you, they want your job.
If you don't mind...
Don't you get rather tired of it all, having to compete with men all the time, having to feel superior to them, thinking of them as poor, stupid, feeble little things because they earn less money than you?
You have absolutely no right to talk to me like that.
You see, I've decided to marry you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think we'd better go and have dinner now. We've got a lot to talk over before the wedding.
I suppose you think you're being masterful behaving in this ridiculous way.
You don't seem to realize I've fallen in love with you.
Yes, I know. I remember the moment you set eyes on me in the Chamber of Horrors.
The French call that sort of love coup de foudre, being struck by lightning.
It must strike you constantly in the same place.
It's never happened to me before.
Please stop it.
You are going to have dinner with me, aren't you?
Is there any other way I can get rid of you?
No.
Well, I suppose I do have time for a drink. What is it the French call it? A coup de what?
A coup de foudre.
My husband is going to bury me in the country. That's a letdown. So please come for a last drink in my office, Friday at 5, Barbara Jane Belmont.
Sit down. Vic, come meet the bride and groom. Johnny.
Thank you. Oh, Harold, how sweet. Harold, this is my husband, Paris Belmont.
Paris Belmont. Somewhere I've heard that name previously somewhere.
Don't you think it's thrilling, Max? I mean, it was all so sudden, wasn't it?
Sudden? For years I have seen it arriving.
What?
Barbara, wherever you find a woman who is hard, ambitious, tough, she's only leading you on. Eventually she wants to be altogether different.
Oh, I don't think so.
Unfortunately, it is true. Even if she wears leather boots all over. Inside, she wants to be a doormat, a domestic. She wants to cook and clean and make your life hell for you.
Oh, really? Not every woman, Max.
It is the story of my life.
The house is almost on the edge of a cliff.
Yes, it is. It's a sheer drop, over 100 feet to the rocks below.
Well, it sounds all right in the summer. But you wait until those long winter evenings begin to close in.
I can't think of anything more heavenly.
What? No concerts, no theatres, no cocktail parties?
No presentations, no deadlines, no Sandra frocks.
What have you done to her?
It made me realize what I really wanted all my life.
Well, Cornwall's not the end of the world, you know.
I'm going to learn to cook and sew and bake bread.
We're only 4 miles from the nearest village.
I'm going to lead a life of blatant domesticity. And I'm going to make my own apple strudel. I've always wanted to make apple strudel.
You quite obviously lost your mind.
Yes. Yes, I have. I have, and I hope I never find it again.
Once I met a marvelous girl in the Edgware Road once. Eventually, she was a policewoman, but she was dismissed off the force for ill-treating some burglars she was arresting.
Oh, how dreadful, Max.
I almost proposed to her like a shot.
You mean married?
Fortunately, I decided not to be too hasty. I took her back to my studio. For a week, she never said one word. She sulked and made faces. Sometimes she kicked the furniture. Twice she kicked the milkman. We were superbly happy together.
Max.
One evening, I told her we should be engaged. She was formidable. She didn't even answer. I ran out at once and bought a wedding ring, and when I came back, she was sitting on the bed. Do you know what she was doing?
Can't imagine.
She was darning my socks.
How sweet. What did you do, Max?
Eventually, I threw her downstairs. It is the same with Barbara. I have seen it arriving with her, too. Inside every woman, there is a victim begging to be let loose on a man.
A victim? But I don't understand.
I remember in a flash now. Paris Belmont.
Of course, I always think of Cornwall as a place people go to end their lives.
I hope you'll be very happy, Mrs. Belmont.
Riley, how sweet. Riley, this is my husband, Paris Belmont.
Yes, how do you do?
What an original idea, Riley. You'd better put it over with the others.
You wouldn't like to bury Olga somewhere at the same time.
I have my hands full at the moment.
Pity.
You can talk to me like that now, Riley, but wait till I take over Barbara's job.
You see the kind of life you saved me from.
Yes, I do.
You! You are Paris Belmont.
Yes, Max.
It's formidable. For 5 years, I have been wondering what has happened to you for 5 years.
I've been living in the country.
Working.
Various odd jobs.
Odd jobs. Then you are a criminal, incidentally.
What are you talking about, Max?
So many years ago, I saw your exhibition of paintings. It was superb, like an explosion.
Darling, you never told me about that.
How have you given up being an artist?
Well, no one really gives up being an artist. I've simply stopped painting.
Are you keeping any other secrets from me?
You have taken up something else instead.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have, as a matter of fact.
What is it?
I've become a sort of collector.
He's collected me.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
There.
Oh, darling. It's beautiful. Oh, and the view. Oh, darling. And an open fire. And, oh, I love this stone. Oh, darling, it's all perfect.
It is. It's perfect now.
Oh.
I think I brought everything you ordered.
Yes, thanks very much, Mr.
Most
Together.
things I had in the shop myself, except the vodka. I had to use centre-pence for that.
What a pretty bill.
Yeah, Mr. Bellman printed me up 100 of them. He gave them to me for Christmas. Most artistic.
I've had most of them back from you by now.
Now, there's no need to worry about this one now, Mr. Bellman. Oh, except the vodka. I had to use pay cash for that.
Ah, yes. Yeah, darling, we've got a couple of pounds on you. That lunch on the train left me penniless.
Yeah.
Not a very good lunch, either. Here we are. Right. And, what?
I'll be off then.
Cheerio, Mr. Gilber, thank you.
I hope you'll decide to stay, Mrs. Bellman.
Isn't he sweet? What did he mean? He hopes I'll decide to stay.
Here you are, a new bride. It's his way of saying he hopes you'll be happy here.
People down here are going to be awfully surprised that you're suddenly getting married like this, aren't they?
Oh, I don't know. They're used to it by now.
Used to what?
Surprises. No, they look on us as a lot of crazy foreigners.
We're not foreigners.
Oh, we are to them. That's why it's so nice living in Cornwall. As good as living abroad.
Ah.
Ah, you can get away with murder when you live abroad.
Darling, are all those things bills from Mr. Togembo?
No. No, a lot of them from other people.
But they are all bills?
I've had some of them over a year. Don't know why I bothered to hang on to all of them.
Darling, you were joking just now about that lunch on the train.
I shouldn't think I was. British Railways foods, no joking matter.
You said it left you, penniless.
No. I've got, 3 and 4 halfpenny.
Oh, but you've got some money in the bank.
Of course, darling. I've got an overdraft.
Paris, dear, I'm serious. Please.
Now, there's no need for you to worry about it. I did let things slide a little last year, but I've made a start again now.
You've begun painting again.
No, not painting.
But Max said your work was so good.
When I was painting, I used to ask myself that old question. Would I do this on a desert island? And the answer was always the same. No.
Well, I don't believe any artist would ever do anything unless he thought that someone would know about it sometime.
Yes, he would. Yes, he would. That's a test of whether you found your true vocation in life. You don't need an audience. You don't want an audience. You mustn't want one.
What have you been doing lately, darling?
Oh, preparing, fixing up the house, getting in new equipment. You know, this place could be a gold mine now.
How?
What do you think of that?
It's beautiful. Where did it come from?
I made it.
Oh, it's so finished.
Finished. Come see my studio.
Did you make that, too?
Yes, that too.
What's it for?
What's it for? It's an urn.
An urn? You mean like they have in cafeterias?
No. Not that kind of urn. Urn as in urn, burial. Potter's wheel, workbench, and this is the kiln.
Oh, it's like an electric oven.
Gets hotter than the fires of hell when it's full on. Put almost anything in there, and after a few hours, all you've got left is a handful of ashes.
Do you need all that heat?
Depends what you're using it for.
Well, pots.
No, not for pots. It takes almost an hour to work up to full blast. And this gets hot.
Does it always do that?
It uses so much current, it dims the lights in the rest of the house.
It's like one of those American films. As the man goes to the electric chair, the lights dim for a moment in the warden's office.
What a morbid imagination you've got, darling.
Were you thinking of doing it professionally, darling?
Pottery? Oh, well, as a sideline, yes. Come see the workshop.
More? What's this for?
We live in an age of paper. Forms, declarations, certificates. Someone's got to print them. Might as well be me.
You are versatile, darling.
So is this press.
Wasn't it terribly expensive?
Oh, yes, it was. I bought it with a little windfall I got last summer. Would you like to see it work?
Mm-hmm.
There we are. That's a little sample I ran off for the extra police.
It's very realistic.
Oh, it is a marvellous machine, very useful. And I do most of the printing for the church bazaars and jumble sales. Here, look, here's one.
Oh, how sweet. St. Swithin's Church Fete, Whit Monday. Did you go?
No, I was too busy.
Arsenic. What do you use this for, darling?
I use that in the garden, weeds. Well, I think that's all down here, except the garage and the barn and the, let's see, and the smokehouse across the yard here.
A smokehouse? Do you mean for curing pigs and things?
Killing them, curing them.
It's a slaughterhouse, too.
Mm-hmm. Got all the latest equipment. Tiled floors, central drainage, everything.
You do it yourself, darling?
Only just the occasional pig or so. Some of the farmers get fond of their animals and they'd sooner have a stranger do the killing for them.
It's such an odd thing to think of you doing.
So you see this place just like a little factory. Kiln, printing press, slaughterhouse, lobsters in the sea, vegetables in the garden.
You're as self-sufficient as Robinson Crusoe.
There was only one thing missing.
Darling. Paris, we must do something about these bills.
All right. We'll burn them.
We must pay them. Would you mind if I took care of it?
You know, I think you married me for my debts.
I'll open an account in Penzance.
You can use mine.
You mean have a joint account?
Why not? Everything you have is mine, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Darling, I've got to unpack.
You can unpack tomorrow.
My trunks are coming tomorrow.
There's a time and place for everything in the country. There's a time to unpack and there's a time to refrain from unpacking.
I need my night dress.
What do you want a night dress for? Warmth?
Not the kind I wear.
Protection?
I hadn't thought of it that way.
You need protecting against me?
Oh. Olga was right. You really have done something amazing to me. You've broken down all my barriers.
Good.
It's quite a responsibility for you. Are you sure you won't regret it?
Quite sure.
Suppose I hadn't decided to go to the Chamber of Horrors. It was just a whim.
You were bound to drop into my life sooner or later.
What made you decide to go to London?
I just felt I needed a change. Just a whim, too.
You didn't think you'd be coming back with a wife, did you? Did you?
The moment I set eyes on you.
Oh, well, that's all right, then. What a lovely suit.
Oh, yes, I don't wear that one very often.
You must keep it for very special occasions.
I do.
You must wear it at the St. Swithin's Church Fete this year.
Yes, last Whit Monday. That was the last time I wore it, as a matter of fact.
For the fete.
No, not for the fete.
What's this? MB.
I didn't know that was there.
It's locked.
You've got a lot of little clothes in it.
MB.
Is this your night dress?
You like it?
Oh, yes, very much.
Are you sure you don't want me to put it on?
It would only be a waste of time if you did.
You said there was time for everything in the country.
Well, there is. Time to put on and time to take off.
Yes.
Welcome to Cornwall.
Thank you so
We
much.
would have called before, but we thought you'd sooner be alone for the first few days.
Just driving back from Port Seven, we thought we'd pop in.
Well, I'm awfully glad you did. Won't you sit down?
Oh, thank you.
I'm afraid I'm in an awful mess. I've been peeling some apples.
Oh.
Not thinking of making apple dumplings, I hope.
No, strudel.
Ah, dangerous things, apple dumplings.
Yes.
The arsenic wasn't in the dumplings, dear.
Well, it certainly wasn't in the meat pie.
I'm
Oh,
awfully
he's
sorry,
always
but
so
I'm afraid-
stubborn about that. You must remember the case.
Yes, Elizabeth Fenning.
1815.
16.
It was the same year as Waterloo. I remember it distinctly, dear.
Oh. Well, she poisoned the whole family with her apple dumpling.
No, dear, meat pie.
With arsenic, anyway.
Of course, you're George and Helen Stanton.
Yeah, I'm George.
Yes, and I'm Helen.
Paris has told me so much about you, and he's got all your books.
Paris is a great admirer of Pepperidge.
I know.
Oh, beastly chap, so conceited.
Do you know that's how we met? If you hadn't asked him to do that drawing for your book, we know.
Hello, George. Helen. So you've met Barbara?
Yes, we just thought we'd stop in and congratulate you both.
How nice.
Won't you stay for tea?
Oh, I'm afraid I haven't the time.
And no, the fish man calls on Mondays.
I
We
know.
must have missed him.
I think it's so sweet the way they all come to the house. I never need to go into town.
They're very kind.
It's much more convenient.
Tradesmen can be an awful nuisance sometimes. It was the vegetable man who gave Browning away in the Bramble Bush case.
George is exaggerating.
He discovered the bodies.
Here you are.
What's this? Oh, say.
Oh, Paris, it was kind of you to remember.
Well, now, what about our theory?
Oh, there's nothing in it, I'm afraid.
No, Pepperidge bought that suit for the trial.
You mean he didn't kill any of the girls in it after all?
I'm afraid there's no indication that he had one particular suit that he kept for those, special occasions when he did someone in Paris.
What a pity. I mean, how disappointing. Pepperidge was such an artist, raising murder from the level of mere expedience to one of genuine ritual.
Oh, he was a pioneer in his field, Pepperidge.
Certainly
There's
was.
no question about that.
We were so happy when we got Paris's telegram about your marriage. You know, he's the kind of man who needs someone to look after him.
Oh, I'm glad you think so, because he's very self-sufficient in some ways.
Oh, men get such odd ideas when they live alone. I hope you won't mind my saying this, but he did seem to be getting a little odd last winter.
Really? How?
Well, he will hang on to things so. I mean, that, for instance. He absolutely refuses to be parted from it.
Well, it's very handsome in a way.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's one of the best things he's ever done. George and I wanted to buy it from him.
Well, perhaps I can persuade him to give it to you.
Oh, we wouldn't dream of having it now. We didn't know what was in it then.
In it?
Yes.
The time of death must have been 12 or 14 days before the actual discovery of the bodies. The decomposition was quite advanced.
It must have been.
George is going on about Dr. Ruxton again.
Had she
Such a
been,
dull
well,
murder.
it's hard to tell.
George, dear, we must be going. George, dear, we must
Oh, yes. I'll show you my notes the next time you come round.
Well,
Goodbye.
See you at the car, George.
Oh, you must come and see us very soon.
I hope we'll see a great deal of you. Neighbours are so important in the country.
Where's your bubble
But
card?
look at the Thorn case. You know, we're both so very fond of Paris, but it was always a little awkward before.
Why?
Well, I hope you don't mind my saying this, but George and I, we never really liked Marion.
Marion?
Yes, Paris's last wife. Oh, she was... We're not on the telephone, but we can always keep in touch through the fish man, can't we? Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Paris.
Bye, George. Bye, Helen. Got a surprise for you, darling.
Another one.
What do you think it is?
I couldn't begin to guess.
Lobsters. Caught them myself. Oh. What's the matter, honey?
Nothing.
Did the statins upset you?
No.
I know they've only got one topic of conversation. I always find it rather endearing the way they gossip on about murderers.
Why didn't you tell me you were married before?
Oh, you mean Marion?
Were there others?
I should have told you about her. Just that... Well, you see, you and I always had so much to talk about, and... Well, really, there's not very much to say about her.
Well, you never even told me that I wasn't your first wife.
You never even told me if I was your first husband.
Of course I didn't, because I never had a husband before.
Well, let's not have a competition about it. I'm sure you had other things that I didn't.
What happened to her?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's quite simple, really. She left me.
I'm sorry. Why?
She just couldn't stand living in the country.
Where is she now?
Haven't heard from her for some time. Last postcard I got from her was from Kansas City. I suppose she's married again over there by now.
She's not married?
I warned you, there really wasn't very much to say about her.
I suppose it was all a long time ago.
Oh, yes. Almost a year.
She only left you a year ago?
Last Whit Monday. I'd driven into Helston to see a farmer on business. When I got back, she was gone.
No goodbyes, nothing?
No, not even a word. I suppose she must have driven into Plymouth, then by train to London.
Were you very upset?
I was at first when I realized she'd gone forever, and then I was glad. I was relieved it was all over. Our relationship had reached a curious point. It couldn't go on.
I suppose you did get divorced.
Oh, yes, at once. She divorced me, as a matter of fact, in Alabama.
How long were you married?
2.5 months.
Oh, that hardly counts, does it? I mean, you barely had time to... Were you very much in love with her?
I met Marion just about the time I definitely decided to give up painting, and I suppose I was casting around for something to take its place. Wasn't in the least like you, darling. No, there was no coup de foudre with Marion.
Promise.
She wore flannel pajamas, and I didn't even mind.
Paris, darling.
What is it?
We're not married.
What?
At least I don't think we are. Not legally, anyway.
Why not?
When you filled in those forms at the registry office, you didn't declare any previous marriage.
No, of course not, no.
But that
How
means...
could I? What? I didn't have the divorce papers with me. And you know how these English petty officials are. They'd probably have wanted a sworn statement from Marion, witnessed by the governor of the state of Alabama, and all that sort of red tape. And I couldn't wait for you another minute. Remember? I'm sure it's legal.
Don't you think we ought to see a solicitor?
A solicitor? Well, all right. There's old Bascom in Penzance. We'll go and see him if you like.
He'll want to see the divorce papers, I suppose. Do you remember where you put them?
The divorce papers? Yes, they're in the desk.
No, darling, no. I cleaned out that whole desk when I was paying the bills. There weren't any divorce papers in there.
Did you? Well, I must have left them in the studio then. I'll look for them later. If we've been living in sin for the past 2 weeks, another day or so isn't going to make any difference. I do hope we are married, though. I'd hate not to be married to you.
Darling, you will look for those divorce papers, won't you?
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll come up with them. Somehow. I was just coming to that.
I was dusting it, darling.
Be careful, it's heavy.
I know. What have you got in it, darling?
No, it's not what's in it that makes it heavy, it's the base.
When the Stattons were here, Helen said she wanted to buy it from you.
Yes, I know. She's always liked it.
She said she didn't know then what was in it, or she wouldn't have wanted it.
Well, I thought I'd better explain to her.
What?
What's in it?
Well, aren't you going to tell me, darling?
What
is in it?
Quite simple, as a matter of fact. Of course I'll tell you. Ashes.
Ashes.
Poor old Susan's last remains.
Who was Susan?
She was sort of Alsatian, except for her ears, which are floppy like a bloodhound. Suppose she got them from her father.
You've got a dead dog in there.
Only her ashes. The ground was so hard last summer during the drought I couldn't find a place to bury her. So I popped her in the kiln and cremated her instead.
And you've kept her ashes in this urn ever since.
Made the urn specially for her. It was sentimental of me, I suppose, but I just felt I had to have a little memento of her.
I'd call it a very large memento, darling.
She was a very large dog.
Well, what are you going to do with it now?
Just trying to see how I got this lid to fit so well. Darling, you know, I forgot to tell you, I found those divorce papers.
Where were they?
Well, yes, Alma. Yes. Here they are. They were in here.
This apple strudel is delicious.
It's the best I've ever tasted.
Do you like it, Paris?
Yes, I adore it.
You must give me the recipe sometime.
I don't have a recipe. I just make it up as I go along.
Improvise. Yeah, that's the great thing nowadays, improvise. Look at Pepperidge.
Pepperidge planned everything very carefully.
Yes, in the beginning, but at the end he improvised.
He pretended to be a shell-shocked Polish veteran so that he could apply for the post of grave digger at Epping. Now, don't you call that planning?
Oh, brilliant planning. But afterwards, whenever he was questioned, he always had an answer. He improvised.
Oh, nasty, conceited little tick.
But Helen, you must admit he was out of the top drawer. I mean, 18 successful murders.
Oh, I grant you he was no fly-by-night, but I just can't bring myself to like the man.
They weren't all that successful, darling. He was hanged, wasn't he?
Yes, it was his conceit that hanged him. He couldn't bear to keep it to himself any longer just how clever he'd been.
Oh, you're too hard on him, darling. I mean, it's very natural for any artist to want an audience.
Paris doesn't think so, do you, darling?
Well, I didn't say it wasn't natural. I said it could be a fatal mistake.
Was that all right in Pepperidge's case? You know, he could have gone on forever if only he'd remained anonymous.
Then you wouldn't be writing a book about him.
Ah, well, dozens of books were written about Jack the Ripper, and he never gave himself away.
Ah, Jack the Ripper. Now, there was a real artist. Do you know what Oscar Wilde said about him?
I didn't realize they knew each other.
It is impossible to believe that he killed for any other reason than a true vocation to commit murder for its own sake.
Yes, you can hardly say that Pepperidge was in it for the money.
Well, he made a living at it.
Oh, barely. He was always in debt. Will you all excuse me a minute? There's something I have to see to. I won't be long, darling.
Won't you have another piece of strudel?
Well, I really shouldn't. I haven't finished this one.
How's the book going?
Oh, slowly. You know, Helen and I don't seem to be able to agree about it.
No, I must confess it's my fault. But you see, deep down inside me somewhere, I'm a feminist.
All women are.
No, they're not. That's what bothers me, you see. It isn't really Pepperidge who sticks in my craw. It's those stupid girls that he murdered.
He lured them into a wood, didn't he?
Oh, he lured them everywhere. Into woods, into fields, into barns, into churchyards. And they went. They all went.
He was a man of great personal charm.
One particularly addle-headed creature. He took her to his house at Epping. The cemetery was quite close to the house. And she actually watched him digging her grave from the bedroom window.
Didn't she even try to run away?
Oh, the idea never seems to occur to her. When Pepperidge had finished digging her grave, he walked back to the house and just called out to her, "Come here for a moment, will you, darling? There's something I want you to see." And she went.
They all went.
Great personal charm.
Yes, you see, Helen, it was all part of his psychological technique to establish a relationship of perfect trust with his victims before he killed them. Oh, I'm sorry about the lights. Just getting the kiln warmed up.
What for?
I've got a sort of vase to fire this evening.
Oh, something new?
No, not new.
Oh, do show it to us, Paris.
Neither show you.
But I've always wanted to see one of your vases before it was fired.
Have you, Helen? Why?
Well, the process is so interesting.
Yes, it is. It's interesting.
Thank you so much, Mr. DeGember. Have you got the bill?
Oh, there's no need to pay for these now, Mrs. Belmont. Except the fish, if you'd like to. I'll pay cash for the fish.
Isn't the fishman coming today?
Fresh mackerel he told me you'd ordered.
That's right.
Didn't seem sensible our boat coming out here, so I brought it along for him. 4 and 8 pence it were.
Oh, I'll give you a check for everything. I hate owing people money.
A check? Mr. Belmont gave me a check once, and the bank sent it back to me. I had to laugh.
Well, it's all right now. I don't know what I'd do without you, Mr. DeGember, delivering things like this for us.
Well, I expect you find it difficult out here with only the farm lorry. Different when Mr. Belmont had the other car, too.
Did Mr. Belmont have another car?
Well, one of them big foreign kind. Mrs. Belmont brought it from London. Mrs. Belmont smashed it up, too. Why, the other Mrs. Belmont, that were.
Did she?
Made a proper mess of it. Lucky she hit a tree, though. If she hadn't, she'd have gone right over the cliff. 7-day wonder, that smash.
Why?
Brought in more people than the St. Swithin's church fight it did. Everyone going down to gawk at the wreck. It were there for 3 days before they could move it.
Why?
Just before Whitsun weekend, that's why. It were Wednesday the next week before Mr. Belmont could get a tow car.
Mrs. Belmont... The other Mrs. Belmont smashed up her car just before Whitsun.
We're hardly worth towing away. Except for the tyres.
Mr. DeGember, when Mrs. Belmont left, you drove her to the train in your taxi?
No, I never...
But you must have done if she'd smashed up her car.
I never work over the weekend, Mrs. Belmont. I'm too busy with the fate. I'm a beadle of St. Swithin's, I am.
But Paris said she took the train from Plymouth. She couldn't have walked all the way from Plymouth, could she?
Oh, that's right. 'Tis a long way to Plymouth. Well, you just call me any time you need anything, Mrs. Belmont. I'll be glad to deliver any time. Oh, thank you very much. Hey, Mrs. Belmont.
Oh, darling, I was just going to call you.
I was upstairs. Paris, please.
I've got something for you to see.
What's that for?
That's the little surprise I was telling you about. What do you think of it? What's the matter, darling?
Nothing at all.
You look pale.
Do I? That's funny. I don't feel pale.
Would you like to lie down?
What?
I'll carry you upstairs.
No, I'm fine, really.
Well, I hate to go out and leave you if you're not feeling well.
Leave? You're going somewhere?
I was just going to drive into Helston.
Now, at once?
I have an appointment with a farmer, but it can wait till tomorrow.
Oh, no, darling, I'm perfectly all right. Really, I am.
Sure?
Yes, I don't want to keep you another minute.
It's not important.
Yes, it is. If you have an appointment, you know how busy these farmers are. Every second counts. Now.
All right. You're not worried about anything?
No, of course not, darling. What in the world is there to worry about?
You're right. Not a thing.
Belmont announces the sale of his house and contents, including kiln for firing pottery ware, printing press, and modern, fully equipped slaughterhouse.
What is it exactly that you're afraid of, Mrs. Belmont?
I didn't say I was afraid of anything.
Oh, of course not. No, it was just a manner of speaking. What is it that's troubling you, then?
I wondered if you could tell me if those papers were, legal.
Legal?
Yes.
Well, I'm not very familiar with the laws of Alabama. I understand they have some rather peculiar customs there.
That's not what I meant. Do you think those really are Alabama divorce papers?
Well, it says quite clearly here, petition for divorce in the courts now in session.
Have you ever seen any Alabama divorce papers before?
People in Cornwall, Mrs. Belmont, are hardly in the habit. Well, London is far enough away, heaven knows.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
You know, that's rather a handsome design, that state emblem. Most artistic.
Mr. Bascom, you looked after my husband's mortgage for him, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Has he said anything to you about selling his house?
Oh, I thought Mr. Belmont found the property well suited to his needs.
Yes, so did I, but,
By auction? Oh, that's most unwise.
Why?
Oh, far better to wait a few months until a purchaser can be found in the ordinary way.
You mean you wouldn't sell by auction unless you were in a hurry to get away?
Oh, with a property of that kind, it could only be justified as a desperate measure, Mrs. Belmont.
Mr. Bascom, I suppose you knew the last Mrs. Belmont quite well.
Oh, I saw her sometimes on the golf course, that's all.
What was she like? I mean, what was your impression of her?
Oh, she was very sound in her approach shots. No question of that, but far too nervous for the green.
Nervous?
I noticed it particularly just before the end. Just before she left, that is. I saw her miss a 12-inch putt one day. Of course, she was an American. They're easily rattled, the Americans.
Yes. Not like us. Did you see her husband about... My husband. Did you see Mr. Belmont at all about that time, do you remember?
Oh, I saw him. It was the day I got a 4 at the 17th. Whit Monday, that would be.
How was his putting that day?
Oh, he wasn't playing golf. He was much too busy. I saw him go tearing past in his lorry.
On Whit Monday? Where in the world do you suppose he was going?
Oh, he wasn't going anywhere. He was coming back.
was taking a pig home to slaughter, Mrs. Belmont. Fine big pig it was, too. Must have been a messy business cutting its throat.
Yeah? What are you going now then?
Hello, darling. You feeling better?
Yes. Yes, I'm fine now.
Good, good. Were you going to phone someone?
No, it was a wrong number.
I didn't hear it ring.
It only rang once, just a brief little tinkle.
Oh. You going out again?
What makes you think that?
Well, Gambo said you asked him to wait.
Oh, yes, I did. Did you send him away?
Well, I thought that now I'm back. If you want to go anywhere, I can take you. I can drive you.
I have nowhere to go. I was only going to pay Mr. Tagembo.
Oh, that's why you asked him to wait?
Yes. Besides, I couldn't possibly go anywhere now. I'm waiting for the fish man.
No, he didn't come yet.
No, he'll be here any minute. I ordered some fresh mackerel. You like fresh mackerel, don't you, darling? He'll be here any minute.
I adore.
You're wearing your new suit.
Do you like it?
It's very smart.
You don't think the jacket's a bit on the short side?
Not a bit.
I put it on for a rather special occasion. See if you can think what it is.
Let me think. The last time you wore it was on Whit Monday.
Well, that wasn't such a special occasion. In fact, that was really rather disappointing.
Aren't you going to put the lorry away?
Well, as we're not going out again, shall we have tea? While we're waiting for the fish man? Well, what's that?
Oh, it's just the groceries, darling. Mr. Tagembo brought them. I'll put them in the kitchen.
Let me help you.
No, darling, I can manage.
No,
really,
I'll just
take
a couple of things off the top here. Mackerel. Fresh mackerel.
Oh, Mr. Gamble must have brought it.
Well, there's no need to sit around waiting for the fishman now.
Tea. And, there's some apple strudel left.
Oh, good. You think of everything.
Yeah.
Here, let me help you.
No, darling, no. I can manage, really.
Sure,
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
All right.
Tea, darling.
Ah.
It's all ready for you.
I'm afraid I have made the neck a little too tight there. Oh, thanks.
Don't!
What's that?
I just thought it might upset your stomach, so, so soon after lunch.
Well, it's hours since lunch.
You turned the kiln on. Another urn, or...
No, not another urn. Give me a chance, darling. Not yet.
Aren't you going to, eat your strudel? Does it taste all right?
It's delicious. Aren't you going to have some?
No, I had tea in Penzance.
Oh, that's where you went this afternoon.
Yes, I went to see Mr. Bascom.
About my divorce papers?
Yes, I showed them to him.
Good. What did he say?
What's the matter, darling?
That tastes funny.
Funny how?
I don't know, like chalk. Well, what did Bascom say?
I'll tell you when you've finished your strudel. And the sugar.
All right. Well, are you going to tell me now?
Yes. Yes, I'll tell you now. He said that he saw you last Whit Monday. You were driving a pig home to cut its throat.
That's right. I remember. I saw Bascom, too. I waved at him.
I'm sure you did. You wanted to make certain that everyone knew you were killing something that afternoon. To explain why you were spending so much time in the slaughterhouse and all the blood. Who did you wave to this afternoon?
What on earth are you talking about?
There's no need to pretend anymore. Of course, there was Mr. Tagemba, wasn't there? But that was just a stroke of luck. You weren't counting on him. Who else did you see in your travels?
Darling.
Go on, tell me.
Who did I see?
Yes.
This afternoon? Well, I saw the farmer when I went to Helston to collect the pig. And then well, now, this was meant to be a surprise. I went to see a new firm of auctioneers to show them a sample of my printing. They've promised me a lot of work, darling. And auctioneers are much steadier than churches. Less seasonal.
You went to see these these people this afternoon?
Yes. That's why I've got this suit on.
Then what's this for? This other surprise?
It's for Helen Staton. It's her birthday tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
You see, Helen has always fancied old Susan's urn. In fact, she was damn annoyed when I wouldn't sell it to her. So I've made her another, just like it. I should have it all finished by tomorrow.
It looks finished to me now.
No, I've had to scrape away around the rim and the lid. And the lid is being reglazed at the moment. That's why I've got the kiln on.
Oh, yes, you can explain everything, can't you? Like Pepperidge.
Pepperidge?
There's one thing you can't explain. What happened to Marion?
I told you that, darling. She left me.
I found her suitcase. I broke it open. It was all packed, even her pajamas. I'm not surprised she was trying to run away. She was frightened out of her life after that car crash. You bungled that, didn't you? There was no relationship of perfect trust with her after that.
You think I got rid of Marion or something?
You got rid of her, all right. You murdered her.
Darling.
Of course you did.
It's the Statons. It's all their incessant talk about murder. Marion's in America. You saw the divorce papers she sent me?
You printed them yourself.
I printed them. Darling, you're the one who's got an answer for everything now.
Explain this then. You said Marion took the train from Plymouth. You said she drove there half. When she'd smashed up her car, and you had the lorry. Go on, tell me that.
That is quite simple, really. I'll tell you if you want. I've never had this out with Helen Staton because I didn't want to quarrel with her. But she never liked Marion. I think she always encouraged her to leave me. So here's what must have happened. Marion walked over to the Statons that evening, and Helen drove her to the train.
Marion left you without even taking her toothbrush.
We hadn't been getting on well together for some time. We'd agreed to have an evening out together, though. When I got back, I couldn't find her. I thought she'd probably gone down to the Cove or something, so I went upstairs to change and put this suit on. Marion always liked it, too. Then when I came down, she still wasn't there, so I went out to look for her, and I found her suitcase about 50 yards down the lane, and that's when I realized what she'd done. You see, it's almost 4 miles to the Statons, and Marion was not the sort of girl to walk 4 miles carrying a suitcase, even if it was full of gold.
You're only guessing.
We'll ask the Statons.
They haven't got a phone.
I'll drive you over there. Now. Come on. We'd better get this settled once and for all if you're worried about it. Come on.
No. Oh, darling, of course I believe you. You're right. It was all that talk about Pepperidge. Everything seemed to fit together so neatly. Marion and the kiln and those ashes in that urn. And when you brought another pig back this afternoon,
Barbara. You didn't think I was planning to kill you, too?
Oh, Paris, darling.
God, darling, sweetheart.
Paris, darling.
What is it now?
I've poisoned you.
You have?
In the strudel, I put arsenic all over it.
That was arsenic?
Oh, don't, Paris.
Are you sure it was arsenic?
Oh, sit down, darling.
Where'd you get it?
Sit
Where'd you get this?
Have some hot water. I'm going to call a doctor.
No, wait, just a minute, darling. Where did you get this?
In that tin in the workshop.
That wasn't arsenic, that was chalk.
It said arsenic on the label.
I told you, I used all that in the garden. There's nothing in that tin now except chalk.
Chalk?
French chalk. I said it tasted like chalk, not a bad guess, really.
Oh,
I mean, when you think all people can't even tell butter when they taste it, not bad. Guessing chalk, first shot. My God. Were you going to leave me, too?
There's absolutely nothing for me to say.
Darling, you go upstairs and unpack. I've got some things to do outside, and we'll open up a bottle of vodka and we'll have a marvelous evening together.
Darling, I'm sorry.
You needn't bother to unpack your nightdress.
Darling, just come down here a moment, will you? Something I'd like you to see.